I call to order the August 28th regular council meeting, and again, welcome back, everyone. It's really good to have you watching us, and gallery members and media. Thank you for being here, and welcome back all council and administration. I call the meeting to order, please, at 1:03 p.m. I'd ask council this time if you have any added items to the agenda. Thank you. Seeing none, we will move forward to the adoption of the agenda as presented, please. And I'd have a motion, please. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move the adoption of the regular council meeting for Monday, August 28th, 2023 at 1 p.m.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz, and I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. I'm asking council at this point in time for item 2A, adoption of previous council meeting minutes. If you have any questions, changes, or if not, I'm going to be looking for consent. We have consent then for the adoption of the previous council meeting minutes. Whoop, I just broke my pen. Moving down to page 26 of your agenda. 4B, bylaw 2023-19. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. I'm going too fast here. Page 8, please. Corporate Services Quarterly Update Report. And I would go ahead and Director Sheena.
Thank you, Mayor Judy. So this is the corporate services report for the second quarter, that being April through June. I'll first run through a few highlights for the corporate services department. So in June, we implemented the $1 printed utility bill fee. As you would expect, there has been a large increase in e-billing applications coming in. So we increased from 40% in quarter one to 48% by the end of June. We had Carolyn Rutley join us on April 27th. She is our new IT coordinator. Carolyn has jumped right into her role and has already gained the confidence of employees to reach out with any concerns they're having, which has been great. As was mentioned in the report, one of the first things she did after joining was create an internal ticketing system to track our issues, requests, questions, etc. She's been averaging about 100 to 120 requests a month. And having this ticketing system will help us to recognize any trends or deep-seated issues within our IT moving forward. Approved in the 2023 budget was an 18-month term position for our finance intern, which was grant funded through the Municipal Affairs Intern Program. Unfortunately, with the low turnout of resumes, we were unable to hire a suitable candidate and had to withdraw from this program. Looking at the statistics specifically, I won't run through them, but I would open it up to any questions that council may have, if there are any.
Thank you. We'll move to Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Dahl, do you want a motion to on the table first, or questions?
I still have the financial update to go through as well.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Just the statistics right now? Yeah.
Yeah, I just have a question with regards then. Thank you, Director Lindeman. With regards to the intern position there, that person, what the role that they were going to play and the amount of work that they were going to do. Now, what happens to that? Is that going to be filtered down to our other staff members, or how's that going to work?
So it was existing projects that were already on existing staff members that I was hoping that person would do, as well as leading a role in asset management. They are taking applications again here in October, so we will apply again and try again for next year.
Okay, thank you very much. Good luck with that.
Thank you. We have Councillor Wilson and then Councillor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to the Director of Finance. Just can you comment a little bit on the upcoming projects, the work order system and the purchase order system in terms of start date or status update, completion date?
So the purchase order system is in the works right now. It is, the software is being installed. I don't have a specific start date, but it's in the works. The work order, we just did a demo last week with all the departments, just to get them thinking of implementation and all the background work, 'cause it's only as good as all the data that you put into it to begin with. So we're just looking at getting, of course, our quote had expired, so getting a new quote and then refining that to which departments we want to start and all that. But in the next couple months, you'll see that coming about.
Very good. My apology, it is Deputy Mayor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. With regards to the finance interim, I'm always finding it hard to believe that there's so many people looking for work, but we can't find people to fill positions. I have two questions about the intern program. I think you kind of alluded to one there when you said they are accepting applications. So these interns are not directly applying to the town of Olds to fill a position available in the town of Olds. They're applying to a program director somewhere who, with a preference to work here, there, or the other place. Is that correct?
Correct. So first the municipality applies and the funding is then approved to each municipality. And then they take an intake of applications or resumes from the students. And there are criteria that those students have to meet. So they have to have finished a finance degree, a 2-year minimum within the last 18 months or something like that is the main requirement for the finance. And then they don't have to be moving on to CPA or anything like that, but they have to have finished that finance degree within the last 18 months.
And that was the second half of my question there, was the academic requirement of these interns. It has to be a finance degree, a Bachelor of Commerce, for instance, or a Bachelor's of Finance, something like specifically in that genre, not like a college equivalent business administration. It's very specific to university.
Not necessarily university. It has to be a 2-year program that they've completed, but it has to be a major in accounting.
Any further questions? If not, thank you very much, Director Linderman, and I would continue.
So now on to the financial update. So this is for the 6 months, that being January through to June. At 50% of the way through the year, our operating budget is now 42% spent, and the capital budget is 13% spent. Of course, most of our capital happens in the months of July and August, so we'll see that in the next one. And at this point, everything is tracking as it should be. I have no areas that I would like to highlight, but would open it up to any questions from council.
Once again, I'll open the floor for any questions. Seeing none, please move forward. Oh, good. There's no questions for Director Linderman, then I would entertain a motion. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you very much, Mayor Dahl. I move that the Corporate Services Quarterly Update for the 6-month period, January 1st, 2023 to June 30th, 2023, be accepted for information.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I will then call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. We will move now down to page 17, and page 17 is Bylaw 2023-18, Records and Information Management, consideration for all readings at this time. Would you like to speak to this, CAO Williams?
This one also falls under Director Linderman, so I'll let her introduce it, or to Marcy if she's more suited. Or I can start. So our records management bylaw, it's, I believe 1999 was the original iteration of it, and this update was in the works for quite a while. This is both housekeeping and a reformatting of how we retain and dispose of documents, and it's something all municipalities have to have. It's relatively uncontroversial, largely housekeeping. Outside of the specifics that were added or changed, Marcy or Sheena maybe not could speak to those, but it's open to questions. But it's more of just a to highlight our current practices, as the previous bylaw was not doing that.
Legislative Clerk, we will ask you if you would add any comments at this time.
Thank you, through the chair. Basically, we've updated this. The original bylaw, I think, was about 12 or 15 pages because there was a The schedule that was attached was much bigger, had much more definition in it. This is simple, it's clean and clear. It is what most municipalities seem to be doing with those schedules, is streamlining them, and we in the background have those schedules to know what we include in there. And most of the stuff was made to match legislation.
Very good. We'll move forward then, and I'm looking for 4 motions. I will start for first reading, please. We'll go along Councillor Blatz, then Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the Records and Information Management Bylaw 2023-18 be given first reading.
Thank you. Does council have questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Councillor Daly?
Thank you, Mayor Judy. I move that Records and Information Management Bylaw 2023-18 be given second reading.
Thank you. I am now looking at this time for, oh, you have a question? Oh, okay, sorry. I thought maybe I would give the opportunity. I'm calling for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Now consent, please, and I'll move over to Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I'll make the motion that the Records and Information Management Bylaw 2023-18 be given unanimous consent for presentation of third reading.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I now call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Third and final reading, please. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the Records and Information Management Bylaw 2023-18 be given third reading.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan. I call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. I'll have to get you to raise your hand higher next time. I'm sorry, I can't. Hey, thank you very much. Page 20. Oh, sorry, maybe I'm just looking on the wrong side because I know. Okay. Appreciate your help there, Mayor Cummings. Page 26, please, item 4B. Bylaw 2023-19. This is a land use bylaw 0123 amendment, and we will be moving into a public hearing. I still have to put, I'm asking, do we have people in the gallery here for this specific public hearing? Okay, I will be moving into it. I will now call the public hearing open for bylaw 2023-19. This is a land use bylaw amendment for, oh, am I on the right page here? 26. Is it for administrative changes? Nope. Something not correct here. Just one moment. 26, 27. Okay. 2023-19. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. And the time is, and my computer doesn't say it, would you please be able to tell me the time? 1:16 p.m. Sorry, I've got a picture on my time. I'd ask the development officer please to explain the purpose and effect of the proposed bylaw. Thank you for coming to the podium at this time.
Thank you, Worship, Council. Yes, this land use bylaw amendment is an administrative or a series of administrative changes to the bylaw. One being, or two of them are related to development authority or the approval authority for certain applications. One of those is related to the R4 district or the manufactured home district. We currently have some regulations that need to be varied for nearly every application in that district. Well, it is on our radar to review the regulations in the district as a whole. That would require a larger round of public engagement and review of other municipalities' districts. In the meantime, in order to allow us to more efficiently process those applications, This amendment expands the variance powers for the development officers and administration for that district specifically. The other development authority change is related to secondary suites, which are discretionary in most residential districts, and discretionary uses typically come to council, but this amendment would allow development officers to make decisions for secondary suites. If there are variances to secondary suites that the development officer can't approve, those applications would still come to council. The third change is a follow-up to a previous amendment that we did earlier in the year, where we amended the circulation process for discretionary uses that excluded circulation for signs, which they are discretionary, but they're typically not very contentious. And the way it was worded, we now have to circulate applications to adjacent property owners prior to being able to make a decision on signage, which has never been the case before. So this is just matching that with our circulation process for after the decision is made, where those notifications are in the paper and on our website, as with most applications. This bylaw received first reading on July 10th, and a public hearing was on the bylaw was advertised in 2 issues of the newspaper and on social media on our website. Administration did not hear any concerns, did not receive any comments from the public for this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, we have 2 people in the gallery. Oh, that's absolutely, thank you very much for that confirmation. So we have no persons here to address this, and so at this time, I'm asking council if you have any comments. Deputy Mayor Cummings?
Thanks, Mayor Dahl. Just a clarification, that first authority change for the R4 district, this is the one that came about when MPC had mentioned to you, I think, a couple of times, that every time today's mobile homes are constructed to a certain size that no longer fits in the lots that we have designed for in our 2 trailer parks here in Olds. So every single new trailer being put onto those mobile park home communities is too big based on our regulations as they are now. So that's what you're talking about, addressing, changing the land use bylaw to that effect in the future. But for now, giving you the authority rather than having it to come to council every single time a new trailer gets put on the lot. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes, that's correct. The regulation in particular is an 8-meter setback from the property boundary, the boundary of the mobile home parks, which, yes, for 90% of the units that are within that 8 meters, a unit won't fit there. We still circulate to fire department and building safety codes officer to make sure that they're comfortable with what we're approving. But yeah, that's the particular one that has been the reason why they've come to MPC and then council.
Thank you very much. Any further questions? Very good. Seeing none then, do you have any final comments to make, Development Officer? Thank you very much. So therefore, I will declare public hearing 2023-19 closed at 1:22 p.m. I would then now ask council, second reading, please. Deputy Mayor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council give second reading to bylaw number 2023-19.
I ask for council at this time. If there's no further comments, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Third and final reading, please. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council gives third reading to bylaw number 2023-19.
Thank you. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. Now we're moving down to page 30, item 4C, and this is bylaw 2023-20, land use bylaw 0123 amendment, and we will be moving right into a public hearing at this time. So I call the public hearing open at 1:23 p.m. And because we do have gallery members that will be speaking to this, I'll just read quickly. Section 172 of the Municipal Government Acts that you may not take part, and this is from my municipal councillors, in the discussion and decision-making on any matter in which you have a pecuniary interest. The legislation attempts to ensure that you are not discriminated either or against by virtue of your membership of council. If you have a pecuniary interest, you are to disclose that you have an interest and its general nature. You are to abstain from any discussion of the matter, from voting. You are to leave the room until the matter has been dealt with, and you should make sure that your abstention is recorded in the minutes. You are not to be discriminated against and are entitled to participate in a public hearing as a member of public. I ask the development officer at this time then to come up and please explain the purpose and the effect of the proposed bylaw.
Thank you. This application, or this land use bylaw amendment came from an application to rezone a particular parcel in the East Olds area from R2 to CHA, which is a highway commercial district, to accommodate development that they have planned. That particular development is mixed-use commercial at grade, which is not a listed use in the CHA district. So the district needs to be changed to accommodate it anyways, either for this site or for the district as a whole. And while administration was reviewing this application, we had a number of other inquiries from people interested in developing mixed-use residential and commercial developments on other properties in town with highway commercial zoning. So because of that increase in inquiries from the development industry, it was seen as prudent to review this as a review of those districts, not just this parcel. So the CHA district was specifically designed for highway commercial parcels that were adjacent to residential areas. So because of that, the listed uses in it were intended to minimize effects on those residential areas nearby. Because of that, administration supports the addition of mixed uses as a permitted use in this parcel, in this district. The CH district, the regular highway commercial district, isn't necessarily intended for adjacent to residential. So while we do want to increase flexibility and allow some mixed use developments in those districts, they aren't inherently that district isn't inherently designed to be next to residential. So we wanted to allow it, but as a discretionary use, so we have some more room to decide on those applications. So the subject parcel for this application that led to all of this lies in the what the East Olds Area Redevelopment Plan calls the Highway 2A Overlay District. And there are policies in the ARP that support changes such as this. The ARP has a policy 5.2.3 that in that highway overlay district encourages commercial uses to be established and live-work opportunities through mixed-use developments, which is exactly the type of development that this applicant is looking to do. This application was presented for first reading on July 10th, 2023 as well, and was advertised in the newspaper in two issues of it and online. Administration has not heard from anybody in relation to this public hearing into that notice, aside from the other developers who we've spoken with. any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm certain my gallery members do understand the procedures. I'll just briefly, quickly state that presentations are limited to 5 minutes. Council shall not allow cross-examination of persons giving information. Council may ask questions of the speakers after each presentation. No debating or questions from the floor, and no written or verbal submissions will be received by council after the public hearing is closed. So those persons speaking will state your name and address and indicate if you are speaking on your own behalf or for a client, company, or citizen group. So I will call the first time for those in support of the proposed bylaw. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mary Jane Harper, 4637 52nd Street. I guess I'm speaking not necessarily, well, for a client. Let's say it's for a client. So I'm a realtor in the town of Olds, and I think this is a great decision to make discretionary use for mixed use in a highway commercial. It allows developers to not only build commercial sites at ground floor, but to add residential above. And we all know that residential is sorely needed in this town of Olds. So it provides great opportunities for developers and landowners to develop their properties.
Thank you. Would you like to speak also in support? Thank you very much. I see no one would be here opposed because you're the only two ladies here. So I'm going to open the floor to council at this time for any comments, questions. And I'll start with Deputy Mayor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor Judy. Just a quick clarification from the Development Authority here. So the idea is to change the zoning to allow for discretionary use of mixed commercial at grade. Is that a discretionary use with you as the authority to make the decision, or council or MPC as acting as council? So I was a little unclear on that part of who the authority is in that discretionary use.
Thank you. So, yeah, the proposal is to make mixed-use commercial at grade a discretionary use in the CH district. And right now, that would mean council is the development authority. And it would make it a permitted use in the CHA district, where administration would be able to render decisions on those applications.
Another question, please, Mayor Cummings, or Deputy Mayor Cummings?
Thanks, Mayor Judy. I am also fully in support of any commercial residential units being built in the town of Olds. As Mary Jane Harper had mentioned, that we are sorely in need of apartment-style housing in town. We've talked about it numerous occasions, that this is certainly what we're focusing on as a council, to get higher density housing and rental units into town. I look forward to seeing what the development is going to look like at a council meeting, hopefully in the future when we see the development plan in, but I am fully in support of this program.
Thank you. Any further comments from council at this time? I thank you very much for coming and being with us today in support of this request. And do you have any further comments? Thank you. Development Officer has no further comments. Therefore, none from council. I declare the public hearing closed at 1:32 p.m. I would now at this time ask council for a second reading. And Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council give a reading to bylaw 2020-20.
Thank you. And if there's no questions, I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Third and final reading, please, Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that council gives third reading to bylaw number 2023-20.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Once again, thank you very much, ladies, for your time this afternoon in our gallery. I'd address council to page 35, please. This is bylaw 2023-22, land use bylaw 0123 amendment. And did you want to speak to this? Thank you, CEO Wilson.
Just everywhere.
You can get close.
CEO, okay. Welcome back from summer, everyone. We're all getting there. My apologies, CEO Williams.
No worries, Mayor Dell. Thank you. The bylaw in front of you is a slight amendment to the library board bylaw, which again is a requirement if you have a library board, which we do, and it's largely procedural in nature. Marcy, what's up? Oh, I thought we were the library board one. Sorry. So Kyle, is this you? Okay, you come up. That's a better idea.
Again, thanks, everyone. We're all being refreshed from a couple of council meetings off.
Thank you again. This final application, or land use bylaw amendment, was also an application from a property owner in town looking to amend the land use bylaw to propose a site-specific exception to allow for an accessory dwelling unit in a commercial building that would be used by as temporary residential use by the clients. The applicant is the Central Alberta Pregnancy Care Centre. And when they purchased this building, there was an illegal residential suite in it. We've been speaking with them since that time, over a year ago, and they did inform us that at some point they would like to apply for this, and they did come forward recently. Sometimes their clients would like to be able to have them on site for an indefinite period of time, but it is usually a matter of days or weeks. It's not intended for personal or for permanent residential use, and it's not intended to be rented out to any tenants. It is specifically for their clients.
Thank you very much for that introduction of that, and we are only looking for first reading today. So I will ask council for first reading. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council give first reading to bylaw number 2023-22.
And if there's no questions from council, I have Deputy Mayor Cummings.
Thanks for the opportunity to ask a quick question there. So are they asking for the ability to use the illegal suite as a temporary residence, or are they planning to put an accessory dwelling outside, like a mobile home or a RV or something? I'm a little confused about what we're talking about here.
Thank you. Yes, this is for what was the illegal suite. They've spoken with our safety codes officer to determine what physical steps would be needed as far as renovations to make it legal in terms of the building code. But this is for within the principal structure on site.
Go ahead, Mayor, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around this. There's an illegal suite in the basement. They've been told what they need to do to make the suite legal. But instead of doing that, the proposal here today is to allow them to use the illegal suite as a temporary residence. And the justification being is that they're not renting it to somebody. It's not designed for long term. But the reason why we have legal and illegal suites, the differentiation between the two is for safety of the people who are residing in the building, for insurance and all these things. So I'm a little leery of saying, yep, we found this illegal suite, but we are now going to enact a policy or an enactment by changing the land use bylaw, which is the law, saying that you can now use this illegal suite because you're special. Which is, I don't mean to be crude about it, but that's the reality here. We're allowing someone to live in an illegal suite. And I just don't see how we can justify allowing someone to live in an illegal suite here because it's the pregnancy care center, because, and I'm not trying to be less passionate towards the clients of this agency. They are in need and they need help. But it certainly, to me, seems like setting a precedence in law, and legislature allowing the use of an illegal suite as a residency. There's a reason why we have those rules in place. Is it that the turning this into a legal suite would be so impossible that they just can't do it, or is there a timeline? Can we say that yes, you can use this facility until you get it fixed to make it a proper residence suite, and you have this fixed amount of time to do so? I'm not really in favor of allowing someone to live in an illegal suite.
CEO Williams would also like to comment, and then I'll go back to you. I just want to note that I did actually have a tour of that when they first had their grand opening, and where it states here that this supports mixed-use developments, but is a unique case where the mix of uses includes neither a for-profit business nor a permanent dwelling unit. It was explained to all the people visiting on that day that there may be an emergency in a case where they might need to have a mother stay that evening. It's not permanent, it's like a day. Let them get up, be able to catch their breath type. That's what was explained to me. However, you may have some other information you'd like to share, or.
I just wanted to pick up on a point Kyle made. Secondary suites, as council would have saw in July's meeting, are under the mandate of the Safety Codes Council, which has the Safety Codes legislation plus the Fire Code of Alberta. This is a clear exception within those two regulations that non-permanent residents can be essentially in non-compliance, and given the unique nature of the services offered here, that's why we're this is the first reading of a bylaw amendment, and generally they're giving first reading regardless in this tradition. So that would be the recommendation, just to give it first reading, host a public hearing, and hear debate then, but just so council's aware, this is in full compliance with the provincial statutes that enable it as well.
Add anything further?
Yes, thank you. I just want to clarify, and so I was obviously the first one to use the term illegal suite here, but the reason why we can't call it a legal suite is from our own bylaws, because our definition of a secondary suite specifically means that it's a secondary dwelling unit in a single-family home. So this can fully comply with provincial building codes and safety codes, but by our own land use bylaw and our definition of secondary suite, we can't call it that, which is why we had to create another term, but it would be fully compliant with safety codes.
Yes, thank you very much for that. And this is only first reading. There will be that opportunity for that public hearing. Did you have a closing comment? Yes, Deputy Cummings.
Thank you, especially for that clarification at the end there. So that makes the terminology and definitions are what we understand them to be, right? So the clarification helps a lot. Would it be simpler? In my mind, is this the simpler way, or is redefining secondary suites a simpler way? They're both short amendment changes to the land use bylaw. One fixes this specific problem. Changing the definition would fix any future problems similar. Again, this is probably the first time it's ever happened in your existence as a land use guy, but I'm more permanent fix-it guy rather than interim fix-it guy. And maybe changing the definition to be a little bit more inclusive would be a better fix than this one-off for specifically the pregnancy care center. Just would that be a more long-term solution than this, in your opinion?
That is something that could be considered. I do think changing the definition of secondary suites, which I believe has been in our bylaw since 2008, is part of a larger discussion, and maybe that's similar to the previous one where I was discussing the R4 district amendments. Maybe that could come in a land use bylaw review. The reason we went with a one-off case here was simply because we actually had a similar example in Olds here before I started, but where there was a residential use in a commercial building for an eye clinic, I believe, where it was specific to their summer interns, I believe, that would use it. And again, this creating this, when it comes time to do a development permit for this one, there would be conditions on it about who can reside or stay in that suite. But I do think that there is room to review, not just that definition, but really all our definitions when we do a land use bylaw review.
Thank you very much for that. We have a motion on the floor for first reading from Councillor Walsh. I am going to call for that motion. Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you for your explanation, and thank you very much. I would like a motion, please, to set the public hearing date. Councillor Walsh, sorry. Okay, he had his hand here. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council sets Monday, September 25th, 2023 at 1 p.m. in the council chambers as the date, time, and place for a public hearing on bylaw number 2023-22.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Now we will move to page 39 of your agenda, and this will be our last bylaw, 2023-27, Town of Olds Library Board. Go ahead,
Now it's time.
CO Williams.
Okay. So fairly rudimentary changes just to bring ourselves closer in compliance. The highlight in red in the budget area. And Marcy, did we change any language on the appointment structure, or did that remain as is?
Thank you. Yes, through the chair. Point number G, just above here, it isn't showing up in red. We changed that from 2 years, which is the town appointments, to 3 years for a term of up to. And we would recommend at the time of bringing forward any appointments, what we think would be best for the board to stag the board so they don't always come off at the same time.
Outside of those small changes, it is procedural, just to keep it compliant.
Very much. Very good. Thank you for that explanation. And I would like a first reading, please. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the Town of Olds Library Board Bylaw 2023-27 be given first reading.
Does council have questions to first reading? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. And second reading, please, Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the Town of Olds Library Board Bylaw 2023-27 be given second reading.
Thank you, Councillor Daly. Those in favor? That's carried. And consent, please. Looking for consent. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the Town of Olds Library Board Bylaw 2023-27 be given unanimous consent for presentation of third reading.
Thank you very much, Councillor Walsh. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? Thank you. And third and final reading. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that the Town of Olds Library Board bylaw number 2023-27 be given third reading.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. Those in those in favor. Those in favor. Thank you. That's carried. Good. New business, item 5, page 43 of your agenda, please. This is 5A, policy 1002C, economic development. Would you like to speak to this, CEO Williams?
Yes, thank you very much. This was brought forward, I believe, at July P&P for Council's review. There was some small changes made to, I believe, some of the cross-referencing in sections and general grammar. Outside of that, it is kept largely high level for a reason. The main rationale in the current moment is for the EDAC committee, which we want to have established through this policy and then through a complementary bylaw with the terms of reference in time for the October organizational meeting to appoint up to 2 councillors to it. So happy to take any questions. Sandra is here as well, but it remains largely unchanged from what you saw in July.
So I do see that. I'll have a motion put on the floor first, and then we will speak to this. Councillor Daly?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council approve the revised policy 1002C, economic development, as presented.
Thank you. Questions, please, if council has any. We have our economic development here, Sandra Blith. Seeing none, I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. It was very well done, and thank you for this note. And thank you for your presentation in being here for us. We'll move down to page 45 now, please. And this one, we will be dealing with item 5B, Director of Emergency Management Appointment. This is very straightforward. Council has been privy to some discussion in the past with our CAO, so I believe we'll just start with the first motion, please. This will be 3 motions. Motion 1, please. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that council rescind the appointment of Brian Powell, Director of Emergency Management, DEM, for the town of Olds, effective August 28th, 2023.
Is there any questions? I'll see none, then I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. And recommendation 2, Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council appoint Stephanie Bibol to the position of the Director of Emergency Management, DEM, for the town of Olds, effective August 28th, 2023.
Thank you. Do you have questions to this? I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. And again, number 3. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Cummings.
Thank you. I move that council appoint Paul Wright to the position of Deputy Director of Emergency Management, or DDEM, for the town of Olds, effective August 28th, 2023. I did DDEM.
Thank you very much. Do you have questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Page 47 now of your agenda. This is item 5C, tax penalty cancellation request. Who would you like to speak to this?
Director Lindeman's here to speak to this. Thanks.
Thank you. Today, administration is asking council to consider canceling the July 1st penalty in the amount of $84.47 on roll number 4012800. As is explained in the RFD, the homeowner was unable to pay due to medical circumstances.
Thank you. I believe we should put this on the floor, and we will have questions after the motion is on the floor. Councillor Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the penalty of $84.47 imposed on roll number 4012800, July 1st, 2023, be canceled.
So I would like to open the floor now for any questions council may have at this time. Deputy Mayor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor. A quick question maybe to Director Linderman here, through yourself. When the Municipal Government Acts allows us to have these bylaws in place for putting the penalties in, then we say you can be exempt or relieved of these penalties because of this, that, or the other thing, and then this, that, or the other thing happens. My question is does it really need to come to council? So we've had this discussion a couple of times in the past where council gets these things and council's not allowed to say no because of legislation. And I'm wondering if this is the same sort of situation. There's a medical reason for not being able to pay the taxes. Within our own bylaw, does it state that that's an excuse, that's an allowable reason for administration to say we can waive this tax roll? Or does it need, is that something we can do, is basically what I'm asking. Can we give this authority to you as administration to, under certain circumstances, simply waive the fees without having to come to us for something like this? I mean, the dude's in the hospital, dude can't pay his taxes, we understand that. So it just seems to me a little bit odd to come to us under certain specific situations. So is there a part of the legislation that can be changed so it doesn't have to come to us?
So under the MGA, as in section 347, council is the only one that can cancel any sort of tax, whether it's penalties, arrears, whatever. I would have to find out if we can include it within the bylaw, that perhaps maybe under a certain threshold, administration can make that decision as opposed to coming to council. But again, I need to seek advice on that.
Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. And going to this, this request, I'm struggling to, although my sympathies are to the homeowner and understanding that she was recovering from heart surgery and, you know, that she wasn't able to come. It's unfortunate that she wouldn't have had someone who could have come on her behalf. My concern with accepting this, we will set precedent in the community, and unless we're going to have some stipulation that states you must provide us with a letter from a doctor or the hospital or something, or, you know, something to back up your unfortunate circumstances, then we sort of get into playing, I don't know, maybe devil's advocate on this type of situation. But I'm really not in favor of supporting paying out this penalty, is particularly too when we take our utility arrears and put them on our taxes right away, and we don't give anybody any flexibility on that. So I'm afraid of opening up some kind of precedent. And again, my sympathies to the individual who's had this misfortune, but I don't believe that I can support it at this time.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl, and through you to Director Lindeman. Can you tell me when the tax notices go out? What's the date on those?
I, off the top of my head, can't remember the specific date, but it is mid-May, so May 15th, around there.
Thank you very much for that answer. And just a supplemental comment, I suppose. I agree with Councillor Blatz. I do not support this. I sympathize totally with the fact that she was in the hospital. She could have paid those taxes ahead of time before she went into the hospital without getting a penalty. So I believe that we should stand by our tax penalties, and you know, like I sympathize. I think that there was an opportunity to pay perhaps before she went into the hospital. So that's my comment.
Thank you. Any more? Councillor Walsh?
Yeah, I have no problem supporting this. Trying to guess when somebody should have paid their taxes. Heart attack could have happened anytime. I can't read into this anything other than they were unable to pay and they were willing to pay. So yeah, I would support this. It's not huge and it's compassionate, and I think we need to show that.
Thank you very much. Councillor Wilson?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Just very briefly, I guess you can debate on compassionate grounds whether we should waive the penalty. On the one hand, I look at it, $85 is not a significant amount. There were other options, and maybe this is another reason to have automatic withdrawals around taxes. I don't know the full story behind this, and I am also concerned about the precedent setting, albeit for $85. What happens when the next request is for something significantly larger? So I'm having difficulty accepting this waiver.
Thank you very much. No further comments? I would have to say, from what I've heard around the table as well, once again, there is a compassionate component to it. However, we are the stewards of 10,000 people in this town, and I would like to see some more clarity around what comes to council on this. As stated by Deputy Mayor Cummings, this is not clear enough to me to support this today. However, I do support the family and trust that everything's well with them. I would like to see administration bring something more clear back for council in circumstances such as unforeseen medical circumstances, and have council address those prior to having these come to council. Is there any further comments? We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Walsh. And seeing none, then I will call for the vote. The vote was that it be cancelled. I'll read. Would you like me to read the motion once again? No? Okay. I will then call for the vote. Those in favor? Those opposed? That is defeated. Thank you very much for your comments, everyone. Page 49 of your agenda, please, item 5D, tax recovery sale conditions. Once again, is this going to be Director Linderman?
Thank you. So today we're looking for council to set the terms and conditions and the reserve bids for the 2023 tax recovery sale, which is to be held in council chambers on Thursday, October 26th at 2 p.m. There are currently 5 properties that the municipality must sell under the Municipal Government Act prior to March 31st, 2024.
Thank you. This was very interesting read. I would be looking for 6 separate motions here, please, because they're all speaking to different properties. So I will start with motion number 1, which ends under item 3. Motion 1, please. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council set the terms and conditions of the tax recovery sale scheduled for Thursday, October 26, 2023 at 2 p.m. in the Town of Olds council chambers as follows. Number 1, these properties are being offered for sale on an as-is, where-is basis. Number 2, these properties are being offered for sale subject to a reserve bid and to the reservations and conditions contained in the existing certificate of title. And number 3, payment of successful bid shall be made by cash or certified check payable to the Town of Olds, a non-refundable deposit of 20% at the time of sale, with the balance of 80% of bid due within 10 days.
Thank you. Does council have questions to this motion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Motion 2, please. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that roll number 3343000, Lot 12, Block 8, Plan 0312513, have a reserve bid of $579,330 placed on it for the public auction scheduled for Thursday, October 26, 2023 at 2 p.m. in the Town of Olds council chambers.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wilson. I'll call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Now we'll move over here. Councillor Daly, can I have number 3, please?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that roll 3344800, Lot 35, Block 3, Plan 0312513, have a reserve bid of $370,080 placed on it for public auction scheduled on Thursday, October 26th at 2023 at 2 p.m. in the Town of Olds council chambers.
Thank you. Does council have questions? I will call, Councillor Wilson, question.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Yeah, I do have a question that kind of pertains to all 3 or 4 of these, and my apologies, I just kind of woke up here. I would appreciate just a clarification. When we set the reserve bid, is that based on an assessed value? Is that based on a market assessment that's done independently? How do we arrive at those reserve bid numbers?
So the homes need to be sold as close to market value as possible. So we do speak with our assessor, and he has given the advice that we take assessment less 10% for any residential home and less 20% for mobile homes.
Very good question. Thank you. So we still have the vote on the floor from Councillor Daly. I will once more call the vote. Are those in favor? That is carried. And so we will move back over here for number 4. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that roll 7003500, Lot A, Unit 35, Plan 7063, JK, have a reserve bid of $25,840 placed on it for the public auction scheduled for Thursday, October 26, 2023 at 2 p.m. in the Town of Olds council chambers.
Thank you. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. And I'll go back to Councillor Blatz for number 5.
I move that roll number 7006400, Lot A, Unit 64, Plan 7063JK, have a reserve bid of $29,360 placed on it for the public auction scheduled for Thursday, October 26, 2023, at 2 p.m. in the Town of Olds Council Chambers.
Thank you. I will now call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. And final motion, please. Councillor Walsh?
Thank you. I move that roll number 8001600, Lot Unit 16, Block 1, Plan 77100095, have a reserve bid of $27,680 placed on it for the public auction scheduled for Thursday, October 26, 2023, at 2 p.m. in the Town Council Chambers.
Thank you, Councillor Walsh. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Thank you, council members. And there's nothing further from you? Very good. We will thank you for your attendance. We're moving down to development permits at this time of our agenda. Councillor Ryan has a comment?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Dahl. Previously, I've had to recuse myself from development permit discussions, and I've had a discussion with, due in particular because I am on the SDAB. However, I have had conversation with the CEO from there, and he has said that I can hear these development permits now as long as I do not sit on public hearings with regards to these if they ever get appealed. So I will be continuing to be here for that.
Thank you, Councillor Ryan and CEO Williams, for the clarity for our council members. So we'll proceed then with page 51, 5E, and the first development permit. I would like a motion put on the floor, please. Oh. I'll get a motion first. Councillor Wilson and Councillor Wilson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I make the motion that council approve the development permit application 23-119 as presented, subject to the conditions listed in the attached draft development plan.
Thank you. Would you like to speak to this at all? I'm trying to get... Sherry, would you like to speak to this development permit for council at all? Okay.
Thank you, Your Majesty. I have nothing else to say.
Well, we know that you're here if we need you. Thank you very much. Are there questions from council at this time? We have a motion from Councillor Wilson on the floor. Councillor Ryan, you have a question.
Yes, I did have a question, actually. I thought she was going to make a presentation. But anyway, yeah, I do have a question with regards to conditions. So through this presentation, there's lots of discussion with regards to the shrubbery being looked at and saying that it acts as a noise buffer as well as sort of a bit of a privacy. And I see in the photos that there is one there. I'm just wondering, when we look at conditions, whether or not we can have that as a condition that the shrubbery needs to be maintained there to provide this noise barrier and a privacy barrier for the neighbor next to them. And I'm just wondering if that can be made as part of the condition that it needs to be maintained.
Yes, we can add that. Yes, we can add that to the conditions as you are the development authority.
Any further questions? Councillor Daly.
I have a couple of questions, but I'll ask the first one. Looking at the pictures, it looks like the construction is underway already of the decks and of the projects. And so this is an afterthought that they're applying for the permit, or how is this working?
The answer to that is yes and no. The original application came before council in 2014 for a variance for the side yard setback to a deck that existed at that location. At that time, the application was refused, and it was deemed based on the enjoyment of the use of the deck based on noise. However, Development Authority needs to consider that we do not take into place the effects of noise on developments like this, and those are handled through the CSB, which is the Community Standards Bylaw. The deck is the same, almost at the exact same location. You'll see on the left-hand side of the picture where you have your pan, you'll see a deck that's in kind of disrepair. He is replacing those floor panels. He's not replacing any of the structures itself, so a permit for that portion is not required. The portion that he is replacing is a complete replace, and as you see, he has added some columns there, or pillars. The post, thank you, to the post there, and that portion of the deck is less than 0.60 meters, and you are allowed to have a deck at that height, at that location, without talking to us. The reason this application is coming to council is because it's attached to the existing deck.
So that brings me to my next question then. I realize we do have percentage of lot coverage as one of our bylaws as well. How is this measuring up for, because I'm noticing that a lot of this lot is being covered with deck, house, and patio blocks and so forth. So just wondering how that all fits into the plan here as well.
Decks that are not covered are not considered in site coverage as per the land use bylaw. And if it is a patio that is concrete, yes, it is considered.
Thank you for that, Councillor Daly. Any further questions? Okay, Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Not necessarily a question because it was asked and answered, but I would like to add it as a condition that the shrubbery on the side be maintained for as long as that deck is there, I guess, because of the close proximity to the neighbor. While I realize noise is not a problem, I do believe that privacy would be something that I would consider offensive, considering how high this side deck is, and looking down into somebody's or looking across into somebody's master bedroom window is not exactly not a privacy thing that I would like to deal with. But I would like to add it as a condition, and I don't know if that affects the motion that was made, or whether we'd have the motion as amended, considering that there are conditions listed here.
I was just going to ask that, would you like to have that state as amended?
Yes, but I'd like to have some further direction on that. I have been in conversations with the applicant. He was planning on trimming it and possibly making it shorter, not to affect the views and stuff, but just for aesthetics reasons. So I would like some more clarity in that condition to what you mean.
C.O. Williams?
Yeah, I understand the rationale, but I'm very hesitant to start adding conditions on maintaining shrubbery when a variety of things could happen outside of the applicant's control. For instance, whether that be disease or willful or unwillful damage. If the applicant does intend on maintaining it, that is probably as far as council should go if it's approving the permit. If not, then deny the permit. I would not recommend getting so far into this shrub.
We'll go back to Councillor Ryan and just note that our development officer said that she has spoken and will continue to speak to him in that direction. But Councillor Ryan?
Well, thank you very much, Mayor Dahl. And just to speak to that, I know that in a lot of cases we have landscaping as part of a condition on permits, so I don't see that it's any different. And it doesn't have to be this shrub. We can say whatever kind of privacy is allowed, and certainly, yes, they can trim it back. But if we don't put anything in place, and the next person who buys this place, takes it over and takes the whole thing down, then you could have some problems with the neighbor and conversations. So I just think that if we have something and say you have to have some type of landscaping in between or up against this particular deck, it doesn't necessarily have to be this shrubbery in particular, but just have some kind of a landscaping condition.
Theo Williams?
And I would agree with that. Perhaps phrasing around maintaining the level of current privacy that the adjacent property owner currently enjoys. That could be the shrub or privacy screen or something to that effect. My concern is around getting so specific that someone has to perhaps go above and beyond to maintain a piece of plant life. So.
Thank you very much for that clarity, CEO Williams, because I do agree with having some kind of a privacy there.
So, yes, I was going to go back to our development officer, and are you comfortable with dealing with that, or speak to it?
I would just like to add that in the landscaping requirements for residential, you're required to plant a tree or shrubs, not both, and that has already been approved.
Council comfortable to leave as is then and have our development officer speak to the applicant? Consensus? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have a question for the different purpose here. So,
We'll just finish around the table, or is it going to change the intent?
no?
Okay, so
Different question.
it would,
I thought we had already decided that.
oh, did everybody give consent then?
Well, I'm not, sorry, Mayor Dahl, I'm not quite sure what you're asking consent for. I'm asking for, to add a condition to say that there has to be, privacy needs to be maintained, regardless of whether or not it's a bush, a shrub, a privacy fence, whatever. But, I mean, this is a situation where we're talking about a 40% variance and going right up almost against the neighbor's house. And so I think that there needs to be something put into condition. That's my feeling, but that's, I'm not sure that's what you were asking consent on.
Just asking if we would ask for a friendly amendment from Councillor Wilson when he's already put a motion on the floor. Yes, legislation clerk.
Thank you, through the chair. I would encourage council to have the motion of the wording put on the floor by Councillor Ryan and vote on the amendment if it's going to be, to provide the clarity for Sherry to include in the permit.
Thank you. Councillor Ryan, would you be prepared then to do an amendment to the motion? Yes, go ahead, Marcy.
A separate clause. She makes the motion for the amendment she wants on the table. Council will vote on it, and then the amendment could be done to Wilson's motion if it was accepted. Okay.
Go ahead, Councillor Ryan.
All right, thank you, Mayor Dahl. I would move that we add an additional condition number, I guess it would be number 6, because we have 2 twos on the conditions. So condition number 6, to maintain a privacy, same level of privacy, I should say, yeah, as what is already currently there.
Is that clear for you, Sherry?
Thank you. Yes, it is.
Good, so we're voting. The motion is on the floor from Councillor Ryan as an amendment, right? And I will call for the vote. Those in favor? I don't mind. Those opposed? That's carried. Now we'll go back to the main motion. And Councillor Wilson has already made the motion as amended. Oops, sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I have a question about this, and I can't remember from reading in our training manual at the very beginning of council here. A homeowner buys a house, and it has a deck. And that deck, unbeknownst to him, is in violation of being in its existence because it didn't, according to our notes here, was not approved in this MPC meeting. What recourse does the owner have then of the new house, this new purchased owner, have for buying a house that has a deck built onto it that is not in compliance to a previous owner's build? And I guess what I'm getting at here is except for these new posts he's put in, the variance that he's just repairing an existing deck, right? That's what we're dealing with here. He's repairing an existing deck, and he's put in these posts that create this 1.5 foot extension on the, I'm just not following I got so many different numbers and information here. I'm just trying to figure out, if you take all the history away and throw it away, and just look at what he's doing right this moment that requires a variance. That's what I'm still having trouble with, trying to understand what the variance requirement is today based on the work he's doing right now. Because in my mind, repairing an existing deck shouldn't be on the table at all. It should only be any new construction that's being done. And to me, from what you've explained, that's just those 4 posts. So if you could clarify for me today, what exactly is the ask in this variance request of new work that's being done, not repair work?
Thank you. I'd just like to verify what repair work and new work is considered. If in this case, the applicant is only repairing the top portion of the deck that doesn't look new at some point, therefore that's not considered a new development because he is not replacing any posts or structures. Once you start getting into structures, you look at getting a new development permit. And in this case, the portion that you see the new deck boards on there and the posts, that is new development. Therefore, we need to get approval for that portion to be approved. And since it is attached, it is part of the deck. And if it wasn't attached, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Okay, so just to clarify, if I can, in the picture that's on the monitor today, the center bottom one is all new construction?
That is correct.
And the bottom right is repair work? Or is that the same picture, just at a different angle?
Yeah. Same picture, different angle.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, that's it for the questions then, and we're going back to the main motion. That is already on the floor. All right, I'll call.
I just want clarification.
Okay, Councillor Daly.
I asked earlier that it looks like the construction has already started before the permit was, and now Councillor Cummings has clarified that this is a new construction that's going on the side of the house here?
Essentially, it's new construction, but it's just replacing what was there existing. And since the new posts are being added, he requires new permit, new permission, etc.
Okay, thank you. So this was an existing deck, it rotted away, now he's rebuilding the structure and him or her is rebuilding the structure as well as the decking.
That is correct. Should you have any specific questions, the applicant is here via online if you need.
No, council has no further questions. Thank you, Sherry. Back to the main motion. I now will call for the vote. Those in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much for your patience with us, and we will now be moving to page 60, and that's 5F. And again, I would look for a motion to get this on the floor for the boxing exercise gym. Councillor Ryan.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move the council approve development permit application 23-120 as presented, subject to the conditions listed in the attached draft development permit.
Thank you. I'll open the floor now to council if you have questions to this development permit. Okay, now, see. Question, Councillor Daly.
This is in a location where there's already a business that is established in this location, is that correct?
That is correct. There are a number of businesses in that location.
Supplemental. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of those businesses is already an exercise training facility?
I am not aware of that. The current businesses that are on the property are the Canadian Pizza Unlimited and the radio station CKFM, and then the Dexter Enterprises, which is an IT.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very good. We have a motion on the floor. Any further questions? I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's okay. Okay. Thank you. Microphone.
Thank you. Sorry for that. I was a little slower than you were with the calling of the vote. I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this or not, just because of the rules of development permits, but is this the same person who put the development permit in for a boxing club on 50th Avenue earlier this year?
Yes, it is. That application was approved but did not follow through.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
I was just confused on the location.
Yeah. It's confusing. Okay. We have a motion from Councillor Ryan on the floor. I will call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Page 67, please, item 5G. A motion, please, to get this on the floor. Councillor Daly.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that council approve development permit application 23-123 as presented, subject to the conditions listed in the attached draft development permit.
And this is for the daycare facility neighborhood. Does council have questions? Anything further you'd like to add before I call for the vote? Development Officer Sherry?
Nothing at this point, thank you.
Good. I will then call for the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. I want to thank you for your time with us today.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And we're moving down to reports, page 75, please, of your agenda. And that would be reports from council, item 6A. A motion on the floor, please. Councillor Blatz.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. I move that reports from council, authorities, boards, committees, and commissions ending August 28th, 2023 be received for information.
Thank you, Councillor Blatz. In our agenda, you'll see Mayor Dahl, Councillor Ryan, and Councillor Wilson's, and Councillor Blatz sent hers off this morning. At this time, I would then call on Councillor Walsh for a report, then Councillor Daly, and then Deputy Mayor Cummings.
I guess I was kind of lucky. All of my boards canceled at the same time, so July and August, nothing to report. I did have a library meeting in June. Also attended a councillor coffee at the Legion on August 23rd. So that coffee with all 4 people showed up, so that was interesting. That's all I have to report.
Thank you. Just a note that the report is actually from June 27th to August 27th. Any further? Nothing further? Councillor Daly?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Again, summer was fairly slow. Participated in the video production for the Coffee with Councillors series, which I think was my best showing, but they decided not to use it, which was unfortunate. Citizens of Olds lost out on that one. Attended the Carstairs Tornado Relief event as well, and then also attended the Olds College Smart Farm show. And then we also had the coffee with councillors at the Olds Legion on the 21st, I believe it was. So, 23rd. So, I have sent an email to Marcy with my written report.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Cummings?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Coffee with Council, I had one session there at, I honestly can't remember the name of the Olds Town Square studio. We actually had a fair number of folks show up, I think 12-ish folks show up to that one. Good conversations all around, specific to their neighborhood issues mostly, but some good generic stuff as well that's very useful. Attended the Mountain View Regional Waste Management Committee, or Commission. Nothing really new came out on that one, just mostly the response to shutting down the recycling facilities in the communities, and the general consensus from all of the council members from all of the different councils was we're not really seeing a lot of people complaining about them, so everybody feels each one of the communities feels they've made the right decision with that way. course, the video I mean, I wish they did do those videos and put them out there, because we were all just superb actors during that whole thing there. We could put those strikers on call and be scabs for that, I guess. Went to the benefit concert in Carstairs. Got to say, they put on an excellent event. Lots of attendance, some great activities, especially for the youth outside. Attended Ag Smart for both days, August the 1st and 2nd. Learned a lot. Went to several of the lectures that were being presented by our esteemed doctorate students at the college, doing research at the college. And I did a tour of the college Ag Smart Farm, which is very fantastic and neat. I think the largest congregation of food trucks has seen was held there as well, and that was very popular. Yep, that's just the notes from the coffee. And of course, today's, that's about it, because we were all on holidays.
Thank you. One question I do have for the CAO, when we council members are all done our coffee sessions, the next groups will be starting in September, are we going to collectively do a report and put everything together so your staff and yourself will have something to work with for the future? Is that what you'd like us to do? We could condense it all with what we all heard?
Yeah, fair question. I know Councillor Blatz has finished her 3 sessions and sent me a written report. If that's what councillors want to do individually, that's fine as well. Or if you just want to have a verbal conversation with me, and that would serve my purposes as well. But yeah, I had planned on just reaching out to you individually to get your own interpretation of things. But if you wish to get something more on record, happy to have that as well.
Council's heard you, and certainly a written report to you individually, and then perhaps it's something that you can see and share back with us that needs to be taken care of. So if everybody wishes to do that. Is there any further questions to any of the reports that were in the agenda with the boards, committees, and anything? Very good. We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Blatz then, and I will call for the vote to accept. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Page 90, please. And this is our Chief Administrator Officer Williams report. Go ahead, CEO Williams.
Thank you, Mary Dahl. A few things here, starting with the report of problem summary for the month of July. Bit of a correction here. For the bylaw services items, these are actually problems closed. There's just a bit of a gap between how we report them here in report a problem versus what comes through our Parkland dispatch, and they weren't talking to one another, so those were rectified. So the 1 animal complaint and 5 others were in fact closed. The other outstanding item, road issues, 3 of those are potholes we have not gotten to yet as the date of this report. So everything else is largely in order, but we are seeing a small uptick in the report of problem use, which is good. And we still encourage residents to use that portal as often as they can to convey issues with our infrastructure primarily, or services in general, as it is our most monitored and coordinated avenue. Second, this was a request of council a few months back on health and safety. At a high level, I compiled all of our incidents and near misses since the start of the year into the spreadsheet you see before you. Without getting into too much detail, tries to provide council with the overall performance or lack thereof of our health and safety system. Happy to take any feedback on information that you think could be of value here, but largely it's just hopefully to build a trend. Month over month, year over year, we can start to have a better metric on how well our health and safety system is performing. And you can, as we alluded to in our morning conversation, as soon as spring hits, both our busy season and the influx of summer students, that's when we see the corresponding increase in incidents. So. And this is only until the end of June, so I'll have a quarterly report going forward in this nature. The action item list, it's fairly bland. The only outstanding item remains the direct control districts, which was brought up in May. We have a rough plan in place on how to bring those forward to council. We're going to start with just kind of a really 101 class on our direct control districts. What are they? Why are they? And some efficiencies we think we could make in them. However, the larger change to direct control really involves a larger land use bylaw review, just because it's an intricate subject. But hopefully by October's PMP, you'll have a report before you on the direct control districts and what we think a reasonable path forward might be. And then finally, my report, the ONET shareholder update. The TV conversion is behind schedule, but as of August 11th, we have rolled out the beta testing to the larger subscriber base. Through July, it's been mainly ONET staff who've been using it and working out the initial larger bugs, but now we have actual ONET customers on that beta test, and we hope within the next several weeks the full implementation will be open to everyone, and then we'll start obviously building a queue system for enrollment and then therefore changeover. ONET parties in the park were one was canceled, but I heard what we had was well attended and well appreciated. The final vacancy for the ONET Board of Directors, OFL Board of Directors, is underway. We have 3 candidates that the Governance Committee will be meeting with next week, and that recommendation will come back to council by the end of September, I imagine. ONET has hired a senior network administrator, a former TELUS employee, and he's probably in his 3rd week on the job, and it's a much welcomed addition to start building that internal capacity back. New markets are still, we have been waiting for the TV system to get up and running before we start wanting to expand into newer markets, and that is still ongoing and nothing much to report. We're still fairly hopeful that will occur in 2023. No issues are expected with the October 1st debenture payment, but with that future cash injection, which council is aware of and we have been communicating to the public, we are still expecting it in 2023. And once the TV conversion has been determined and paid for, and that October 1st debenture payment out of ONET's accounts, we'll have a better idea of what that date is and the final amount. But we're still expecting between $250,000 and $400,000. And then we have a closed session day to discuss the board appointments that were just mentioned. Outside of that, summer was a break for council, and during that time, we were, it's our busiest season coincidentally as council takes a break, but outside of the many capital projects we're starting and wrapping up, grant applications and RFPs were the name of the game, whether it be from CMHC grants to disaster mitigation to various infrastructure programs. And you have seen perhaps RFPs being advertised from everything from security cameras to a sportsplex feasibility assessment and condition assessment. I believe we had 12 or 13 RFPs overall, but kudos to our admin staff for first putting up with me and then getting all this work done. So it's much appreciated. And that's all I had for my report.
Thank you very much for those details. Councillor Blatz?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan, through you to CEO Williams. Going forward with our speed radar information, could we have that on a quarterly report, or did we discuss that and I've forgotten it? Either with protective services or something. Oh, is it? Okay. Because I think that's good information after having coffee with some of our citizens to have that information available to everybody on a regular, either quarterly or however often it's feasible for administration to bring it forward.
Yeah, quarterly is ambitious just because they are solar powered and in winter they won't have enough juice. So it will be a spring, summer, partial fall rollout. But we have been collecting information all summer, and I expect to have the bulk of that back the next couple weeks, and we'll report according on that on the various locations where they have been.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson, and then Deputy Mayor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan, through you to the CEO, and thank you for the HSE stats. Can you just talk either to the process in place or to be launched in terms of sharing those stats amongst the staff and the learning from incidents and shared learnings to hopefully make sure that repeatable incidents don't happen?
Yes, that is something we do, we have done and continue to do. Some of it is, I don't want to say unavoidable, but predictable, just because of inexperienced workers we have coming on for the spring and summer months. Some of it is what I would say structural, that we do need to improve our health and safety culture here, and we're taking steps to do that. It's certainly a process, and I think with some of the newer initiatives we have underway, such as introducing field level hazard assessments as a daily check, which makes people take 5 to 10 minutes out of the day to have a holistic look at the tasks, duties, hazards, and mitigation techniques required for that day's work. We're up into introducing walk-arounds for all vehicles, from lawnmowers to tandem trucks to graders, and we're hoping to, from that, introduce more preventative maintenance techniques as well that are not necessarily required by any legislation or our own policies, but things that we've noticed either that have caused us mechanical failures or some near misses or just general productivity issues. So it certainly is no shortage of things to improve upon. It's just trying to get the ship turned in the right direction. And
Deputy Mayor Cummings?
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. If we can go back to the wrap summary just for a quick sec here. I'm a little curious because I just don't understand what the problems could possibly be under parks and trails, where we have 18 reported, 16 fixed in less than a month's time frame. That we could have this many problems on a trail system. Could you give us an idea maybe of what some of these, because that by far the bulk of incidents seems to be in our parks and trails. So I'm just a little curious as to, I mean, is this dog poop or is this failing infrastructure?
That's a good question. I meant to touch on this. This is actually, dare I say, 100% related to a reduction in mowing. So uncut grass and weeds. And I believe the 2 that were open, one was just, we hadn't got there yet, and one was a weed that we had to spray because it was under the noxious prohibited category, if I recall correctly. But most of it is generally just unsightliness because we're not mowing the trails as much, and not so much the 3-foot gap we might mow in the tree reserve. A lot of people are getting used to the larger green spaces behind their house. Douglas Place, for instance, if it's a very large green space with no playground equipment or anything in it, right up to Hartman Green. So those where we're going from weekly into bi-weekly mowing, that would all fall under this catch-all term. So it is at or near 100% mowing related.
Behind Douglas Place, I will tell you, it was about 2 feet the day I tried to walk across it, so it does get pretty high there. Good question, though. Very good. I would like a motion, please, to accept the report. Oh, is there one on the floor? Who did it? No, there's no motion on the floor. I would have wrote it down. Would you like to make one, Councillor Ryan? Thank you.
Sure, thank you. I move that the Chief Administrative Officer report be accepted as presented.
Thank you. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And correspondence, page 95. We have quite a bit of correspondence. A lot of it came into myself, to which I handed to CAO Williams. Is there any questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion. Councillor Walsh?
Thank you, Mayor. I move that the correspondence and information report ending August 28, 2023 be received for information.
I see no questions. Call the vote. Those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much. Well, that was a good run for our first meeting after summer. Thank you very much, Doug, for coming. And we will be going into a closed session. Media and Scrum, any questions arising out of the media? Closed session, you can participate in the virtual council meeting if you stay online in the live stream room platform, and the meeting stream will be replaced by a graphic and music will play. If you choose to shut down your live stream, please watch us on the Town of Old's social feeds. And I would ask for a motion, please, to move into a closed session. Deputy Mayor Cummings.
Thank you, Mayor Dahl. Move that we move into a closed session under FOIP Section 17, disclosure harmful to business interest of a third party, to discuss the Olds Fiber Limited Board of Directors.
Thank you, and the time is 2:43 p.m. All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you very much.
I guess I should have said who was staying before that as well. All present.